Here are some of your key tools for this activity. Please note the shortcuts. I will be going over troubleshooting some things as far as layer masks, selection modes, and color adjustments. One of the first things we need to go over is working with the color black. All the other colors are very easy to adjust, but black will be difficult as it is the absence of color and the computer doesn't recognize it as a current color. As I finish this selection, I create a new adjustment layer for the black. You will see as I slide the hue and saturation and lightness levels, they really don't work. But one of the things I'm going to do is click this button, Colorize. When I click Colorize, it makes the black suit now colored, and I can add more saturation and lightness to create an actual suit color. Colorize doesn't have to be used only with black. Sometimes you can use it with a color that is too pale. I will do this on Hawkgirl's shirt as it is a little bit too pale for me. Using the Colorize feature helps to get it to that gold that I want. Also pay attention to the right hand side in my layers panel. Take note that I have organized and named all my layers, including all the adjustment layers that I make for each character, and they go into a folder on the right hand side. Now that I have all the suits finished, I'm going to work on the background. I'm going to use the same process, but it's going to be a little bit more tricky to navigate around the heads, the legs, the capes, and the wings. I can still use the quick selection tool and the lasso tool to clean up my selection so it is nice and crisp. Since we are working with hue and saturation, it is easy to tell what is selected and what is being affected as I slide across the hue and saturation sliders. I can also click the slash key above the return key on my keyboard to see what is and is not being affected in the layer mask. After changing my background color, I can see that there are still some remnants of the yellow background. I'm going to have to go through and clean this up around these edges. As I begin to finalize my background selection and cleaning up the layer mask, I'm going to want to crop the picture as I have two black bars on either side. In order to do that, I'm going to go to the crop tool, which is on the left hand side in the toolbar. I click it once and it will bring up a grid. Once I have the grid, I can navigate the grid into the blue frame, eliminating the black bars. At the very top of the page, there will be three options: undo, cancel, and good to go. That makes the image look much cleaner. Now my render is complete.
Wow.
Now that we're finished, we are going to do what we should have been doing all along, saving our work. You can do Command S as a shortcut, or you can go to File, Save As. After that, we're going to export this as a JPEG. In order to do so, you have to go to File, Export, Export As, and then it will give you a window. We're going to make it a JPEG and make sure the quality is at 100. After I do that, then I can do Export and save it wherever I'd like on my desktop. Here are a few tips for troubleshooting. If you notice that your brush is coloring over the image, double check that you are not working in the image layer, but rather you are working in the layer mask. When you are in the layer mask, you will be able to tell because you could only work in black and white. You might also notice that you cannot use the slash key on a layer that does not have a layer mask. You can only use the slash key if it has a layer mask. You may find yourself trying to work using the brush tool or whatever tool, and it is not working. You must make sure that you do not have a random selection anywhere else on your artboard, otherwise you cannot work. You would have to deselect by going to Select, Deselect, or hitting Command D. The selection on your artboard means you can only work in that specific area and nowhere else, unless you signify otherwise. Be mindful when working with the lasso tool and the quick selection tool that you have options in the top left-hand corner which can add or subtract from your selection. There are other tools available, but mostly you'll work with add and subtract. Please make sure that you're working in the right one, otherwise your selection may be askew. If at some point you make a selection, but you want it to do the opposite of what you actually have selected, you can go up to Select and click on Invert. That will flip your selection around. You will also see in your layer mask panel on the right that you may sometimes be able to invert your layer mask. That's everything I have for the hue and saturation activity. Thank you for joining me, and see you next time.